Hello and welcome to episode 11 with the New Network. My name is Val and we also have Dakota here with us. Welcome, Dakota. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm tired apparently, and I look it, but I'm doing well. I'm ready to start this Monday off and have a successful week. How are
Yes,
you?
I'm doing good. I got up, I got the dogs walk this morning, so I'm happy with that. I had a training call. I've been doing some mortgages and client emails, so it's been a good Monday. I just don't know how it's already this time, but it's all right. We're all good with it.
It's also already February.
Yeah, which it doesn't seem right at all.
No,
You
also
go ahead.
also that text this morning in our friends group chat about us starting high school 10 years ago today.
No, that's
Not
not real.
today, this year, but
No,
isn't
it
that
hasn't been
crazy?
10 years. No, I don't want to accept that. I still feel like I can just legally drink.
Yeah, literally. And like all of our friends, like some of them are engaged, some of them are having children. Like
Who's
it's
engaged?
crazy. I don't know who's engaged, but I feel like
That's
some.
some sort of committed person. Yeah, no, not me. I don't wear it when I go to the chicken coop. It's against my religion. So
That's fair. Is that where you're coming from this morning, the chicken coop?
I collected the eggs today. They've been laying like crazy, and if you leave them for too long, then they will eat them.
Oh, really?
Yep, a bit of a
Have
they're young.
if you just leave them, can they hatch?
No, you'd have to have like a broody hen, which is one that's always sitting on them. So probably in the spring, two of them I've seen so far go broody, and then you just leave them alone. But you'd have to make sure that no other hens got into that box and laid more eggs, or she'd be overwhelmed with too many eggs. So you almost like I usually put like a gate up, so she's on her own. I give her own food and water. Little chicken nursery.
Yeah. Welcome to our farming tips podcast.
Yeah. Tell me about your broody chickens.
So unfortunately, I don't have chickens anymore because my parents said no when I moved out. They let them all die, and then they didn't let them die. They eventually passed on from old age, and then they didn't get any more. So
I can yeah, yeah. No, I was gonna tell a story about someone who let their fish die. It's one of our friends, but shout out to her if she listens to this. I can remember in high school, she's like, yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for it to die. Now I look back and I'm like, I should have just taken her fish, but
yeah, I remember the story, but I could not tell you which of our friends it was.
it's all right. We'll leave her anonymous.
Okay, but you'll text me after her name.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to do a little reintroduction of who we are and kind of what we're doing here because over the last couple episodes, I don't know if it's because we've had guests or because people are just realizing how amazing we are, but our numbers are going up significantly more than they have been. So I just wanted to kind of reintroduce who we are, who the new
And what our
network
mission
is,
is.
and what our mission is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go first. My name is Dakota. I am a real estate agent. I'm fairly new. I've only been doing it for less than a year. And it's all been in a pandemic. So that was exciting to start my career in a pandemic. I have two dogs, which are basically my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And I have known Val since, well, 10 years ago, apparently.
A decade of friendship.
Yeah, that's wild. And we've always just kind of had a super close connection. Um, and a very similar mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about starting businesses together and all these things over the years, but we finally pulled the trigger and started this podcast and started this community-based group, I guess you would call it.
Yes.
Um, and on
And
the pod, sorry, go ahead.
right, and what it's been a huge blessing that we both went into the financial industry, so to speak, or the same market where we're able to partner together as two young entrepreneurs, and that's our goal is to reach out to young entrepreneurs, other people that are doing like starting their own businesses, and also kind of being a trailblazer because they're doing it different. They're not just repeating what the generation above us has done. Those older real estate agents, the older financial advisors, there's certain things that won't change, but there's a lot of things that are changing. So they're fresh and they're new and they're keeping up with the changing ways that business is going.
Right. And it's crazy that we both went into the fields that we're in. We did
Mhm.
it kind of separately because we were still friends, but not as close for a while when we both went into our separate careers.
Mhm.
And then we've kind of just rekindled our
We've close
Our
door.
love is like a circle.
My love is like a circle.
It has no beginning, but it has no end.
That's right. So here we are in the circle, sharing our circle and looking to connect with like-minded people. Receive wisdom also from like if there's little pieces that we can share with one another in the community, and just to help one another grow ultimately and be around years from now.
Right. And that's kind of my main thing that I'm excited about, is just kind of growing with you and growing with the people that we have brought in and the people that we're going to meet.
Yeah.
And seeing how people want to do things differently, and like the way young people's minds work, compared to like the traditions or the norms that are in business right now.
Yeah.
But not even just like business, but also kind of like living your life.
Yeah, like your outlook on life. And I was talking to an older advisor last week, and her daughter's in the business, and I was like, oh, like, do you think she's going to take over your full book of business? It's like 2,500 clients, which is a lot for one advisor. And she's like, no, she's like, it'll take at least 2 or 3 advisors to take this over, because she's like, my daughter's generation, and her daughter's in her 30s, but she's talking about how it's not the same hustle and grind. It's looking for more harmony and balance between life and living. It's not put in 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week and sacrifice that family time and that personal time and that mental health and your physical health and your everything for the career. The career is now a piece of the pie. It's not the whole thing.
Right. And I think, yeah, I like what you said, because it has been a main focus for people in our industry that you just have to, as soon as you start, you need to work those 60, 70 hours a week. Like I remember talking to someone who's been in the business for a while before I started, and they were like, just so you know, like the first, like I would say 5 years, you're not working less than 60 or 70 hours. And I was like, oh, that's kind of scary to me, because I'm used to working like a 40-hour week. Like I've been working 40-hour weeks since we were in high school. Same
Right.
with you, like super strong work ethic. But it's finding that balance between being a good worker and being a good real estate agent or being a good financial advisor.
Yeah.
And also still being a good person to yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where this podcast episode is going to be awesome, because it's the best practices that we do personally. Like it's the non-negotiables that you have with yourself. And you might like stray from time to time, but to have boundaries in place is huge. Not just with your clients, but with yourself, with your family, with your friends, all of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So this week we're going to talk about kind of the things that we do to keep ourselves sane almost, and like to keep ourselves going.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, then your business is just going to go.
You can't take care of anything else. If your cup's empty and you keep trying to pour from it, there's nothing there. Fill your cup first.
Exactly. And also I think it's super, super important to make sure that you're still feeling fulfilled, because you can work 70, 80, you can work as much as you want, make as much as you want, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be living the life that you want to live. That doesn't mean that you're going to be fulfilled or happy.
Or doing the work that you want to do too.
Yeah, exactly. You can be, exactly. Yep. So yeah, we're going to talk about the things that we do to make sure that we are staying happy, setting those boundaries for yourself. And yeah, I'm going to talk about things that I want to improve in myself, because I know as much as we talk about how, you know, we want to live this perfect life between work and home and ourselves and stuff, but I catch myself slipping all the time, and I know there's things that I can improve on. Yeah, and I'm really excited to hear some other perspectives too. So if after the episode you guys want to email us at thenewnet2020@outlook.com, tell us some tips, some things that you do to keep yourself going.
Yeah.
We really enjoy those emails.
Yes. So start with what you do to keep yourself. Like, what are some non-negotiables that you have?
Okay, so one thing that I have really started in 2020 is really focusing on the fact that this really is my only life. So I'm not going to get a second chance per se. So I've started doing, when I want to do something, I make it a priority, as opposed to just being like, oh, that would be so nice to do, but I have this going on. So if I see a book that I really, really want to read, or there's a movie that I really, really want to watch, I have made it a priority to myself to get those things done, and enjoy those things. So instead of just being like, oh, let me write that book down and I'll eventually get it, or I'll eventually get around to reading it.
Yeah.
I've really started adding that to my day instead of, sacrificing my personal life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like instead of making it a reward that may never come, you're making it part of a regular routine to make sure that you're taken care of. And it doesn't mean binging 12 movies a day, but it means like, okay, tonight when I'm done what I need to do, that's my time. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it because that's a commitment I've made to myself.
Right. And exactly. I did feel guilty a lot of the time, even when I was working like in the restaurant or at retail or whatever. If I prioritized, I didn't want to take a shift one day because I had plans to go with friends. Like I felt so guilty.
Guilty. Right.
Yeah. Because like my manager would call me and be like, can you please come in tonight? And I just want to say yes so badly, but I had plans or
yes for someone else, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
and that's like,
go ahead.
Like, when I work with clients and do budgets and stuff, like we always put in an allotment for like personal spending, even if they don't know, like whether it's getting their nails or their hair or buying something off Amazon. Like if they don't have something that they want or need, you still put in, maybe it's $20 biweekly. So that need that we, or that want that we may not even know we have is fulfilled. So you can go, oh, like I can buy myself that, I don't know, new set of blue light glasses from Amazon because it's in my plan and there's not the same guilt attached to it.
Right. And I think that guilt is a really, really hard thing to deal with as well, because it's very prominent in your mind when you're feeling it.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
it really bleeds into everything. Like you get that call from your manager, and even if you didn't have any plans that day, if you go do something, you're like, oh, I could be working and I could have made X amount. Like my team is let down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was rough. That's kind of a pro for working in our industry, is that we don't have managers calling us saying, hey, can you work today?
Right. It's different, right? Yeah, a pro for sure. So for you, like because you had said it's something that you want to improve. What's something that you want to improve with yourself?
I think one thing I really want to improve is like enjoying day-to-day things as opposed to just waiting for something good to happen. Like I'm always like, oh, as long as I get through these next couple of days, it's the weekend and I can have fun, or I can, read that book or go. I can't go see people right now, obviously, because we're in a pandemic. But yeah, like enjoying my day-to-day things and enjoying living in the present, I guess. And I know that sounds so cliche.
No, but it's like living now, right? Like even on my walk this morning, it's like, okay, like this is like, enjoy it. It's not just something that I have to do. And what if I died this afternoon? Like what if we don't know how long we have. So it's crappy to go through every day and be like, okay, finally it's Friday. Like I can enjoy my life. It's like, find the joy in the everyday. There was a book actually on like my Kobo app, and it was like Joy Seeker, and I put it on my wish list. So I was like,
maybe you'll buy it.
What's that?
Yeah. Yeah, and like I know it sounds morbid, I guess, but like let's say you're waiting all week for Friday, and then something happens Thursday night, and you just spent your entire week working and waiting for Friday, right?
Right. And then what? It's like, and one of the books I've read, it's like we live so often like it's a means to the end. So it's like going on a road trip. Think of your life like that, and you're miserable getting there. The car's hot, like you just want to get there, and you get to the end of your life, and it's like, okay, like are you happy now?
Right. In my notes, I had written like in all caps, I hate living passively, which I think is exactly what we're alluding to right now. That like. I'm just going to let this happen. I'm not going to do what I want. I'm not going to experience the things I experience. I'm just letting my life happen passively. And I've lived like that for a really long time, I think. And I think that going into this business and kind of doing this podcast with you and like just being around people who inspire me has kind of changed my outlook on that. So now I'm more focused on getting out there and doing things that bring me joy as opposed to just working those 40 hours and then coming home and I'm so burnt out, tired that I lay on the couch and watch TikToks for 3 hours a night. And then I go to bed, wake up the next day. It does happen sometimes. And you know what? Sometimes you need that 3-hour TikTok session.
Yes. But also with that living passively, it's also looking at like, what can we do? Like us, our age group as a generation, the change we want to be, right? Like we can make things happen, but it's totally in relation to that, like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to accomplish? Or like, what do you believe in?
Right. And what kind of things do you do to like narrow down your mind? Because I know for me, I have all these ideas. I overwhelm myself with things that I want to do, and then I don't get any of them done because I'm like, I have a list of like 1,000 things I want to get done this week, and then I get to
Mhm.
like three or
Yeah.
four things.
So
So what do you do?
I will like take my notebook that I write in every day what I need to do, and I write on it like a word dump or a brain dump, and I just write everything I want to do. And it could be from like taking out the garbages to finishing a client's financial plan to like plucking my eyebrows. Like I just put it on there, and then I decide like what's the most important, what's going to get done today, what's going to get done tomorrow, what needs to be done like by the end of the week, and then I make time for it, and like I stick to that schedule. Like I'm studying for my CFP right now, so I have tonight to do like 3 of the chapters just to read it, but it's part of it, and I'm like, okay, from 8:30 to 9:30, if I want to go to bed, I need to not be watching TV and doing my CFP.
So
But
what? Sorry.
like brain dumping it and writing it all out really helps me, because then I find if I don't, I'll be on a walk and I'll be like, oh yeah, that, oh yeah, that, oh yeah, that. And then it's just these like, it's this cycle that like keeps on taking in different like tasks, but it just keeps going on like on a loop in my mind, and it's not helping me.
Right. And then you forget about all those things you thought of on the walk, and then you don't end up actually getting them done.
Right. Right. Yes.
So what percentage do you, obviously there's no like formula or math, but what percentage do you in your mind think should be going towards like personal things and things that should be going towards work things?
Ooh. Of my like entire week, or
Just on your day to day, like you wake up in the morning, you look at your list and you see all these things, and let's say there's 10 things that are personal and 10 things that are business. How do you prioritize, and how do you kind of like?
So I try to get like my chunk of personal done in the morning before I have like a 9:30 is when I'll open emails and start my day. And then that can usually run until 3:30. But sometimes in between there's personal stuff that's being done. Like I'm going to pick something up, or so a percentage. Is there a formula that you're gonna hit me with after this? Or no, you're
No,
just
I
curious?
was just wondering. Yeah.
I like some personal things are non-negotiable for me, like going on my walk, like self-care. But then there's some things like the dishes in the laundry. I'm like, okay, if I'm not done that by 9:30, then that's on me to do later. Like I have to have that boundary, or I would stay up there till 10:30 cleaning. And then that's obviously easier than calling your client and being like, oh yeah, like your life insurance got declined. Like it's the smaller task that you can fill your time with if you're dreading doing something that just like it's a saying, or it's a book, I think it's called Eat Your Frog in the Morning, and it's like do the hard things first. Yeah. I went to a networking group one time and they talked about it. I'm sure there's a podcast out there about it. I should find it.
Probably.
And it's about doing like getting the things that you A don't want to do, or B, you know, like you'll, even if you don't want to do them, they're big things, do them in the morning. And it's like I was listening to a podcast last week and it talks about making your bed every day, right? It's like getting that accomplished and, you know, starting your day already finishing something. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And I think it's good to like positively reward yourself too, even if it's not with like just getting that task done. Like that's a positive reward in my mind. So like I make my bed in the morning and I'm like, yep, well, look at me go.
And it looks so much better. It's like I've been trying to do different rules for like fueling myself. So instead of a coffee first thing in the morning, I'm like, you need to have one, depends on the day, I'll make like a new little rule for myself, but at least one water. Like I have a water bottle, you need to at least drink that. Like last week, the one day I made it 4. I don't know why I did it, but it forced me to chug. Yeah, I know. I don't know.
No, it's good. It's healthy.
But I'll do that. And then like another thing is like no fruit before noon, or no foods unless it's fruit before noon. Like just I know.
I thought it was gonna be no fruit before noon.
You eat that banana till lunchtime.
Yeah.
So like I just have little like, and that's all you have to think of it as, is no one is forcing me to do these things, but it's rules for myself that I know that I function more at optimally if I do these things. So where if I start my day with like a grilled cheese or even like carbs and stuff, then I feel slow and I want to take a nap.
Right. And I think it's also like important to, I know this sounds super cliche. We're being super cliche this week, but to focus on the positive and not let those negatives, like not think to yourself, oh,
Mhm.
I have to do laundry today
Right.
all
Being like,
day.
sometimes I'll say thank you to my dryer because it's like a really old dryer, but I'm like, oh, you work so good. Like, thank you for working so hard. Cause I'm like, I don't want to buy new appliances, but also this is like, it's just a good dryer. So it's totally, and I've gotten out of the habit. I need to get back into it. Like, I'll just say it in my head, but I used to, like, last week, write in my journal. I just need to do it today. Write in my journal and just like things I'm grateful for. But I like, instead of making the list long, I'll make it shorter because I'm working on like cultivating the actual feeling of gratitude. Like, I can put that I'm grateful for my dogs and for like the guys in my life, like Travis and Grant, but I truly need to like focus on that to feel it. Cause sometimes I find I'm just like the sun and this house, but I'm not actually feeling grateful for it. But I'm
Right.
like use your imagination to close the gap between what if you didn't have that.
Right. I love that because yeah, you can write down everything you're grateful for and not
Right.
actually feel grateful.
Exactly. And that's where I have struggled for so long. And I've been listening to a book called Untamed, and she talks about how important our imagination is because, right, imagine if we didn't have this house, or imagine if I didn't have my dogs, or I didn't have like the boys in my life. Like, it's just, so you need to almost like take yourself out and then be like, oh my God, I'm so lucky. Like, bring it back in.
It's yeah, it's so easy to get like used to all the things that you have in your life.
Yeah.
And just like sitting yourself down for 5 minutes a day and being like, okay, maybe I don't have what I want and I am struggling or whatever, but look what I do have. Look at all these amazing things
Yes.
that I have
Yes.
going on in my life. And I know it's really hard to do that, especially when you are feeling that low or you're in the dumps. And I know it's super easy to get like that right now during the pandemic. Um, but it really is that simple. Like your mind is so powerful.
It's such a tool that we're not really trained on how to use. So it just takes on whatever it wants. Like, it's a robot that self-programmed itself, and we didn't put any filters on it. But now we're learning that we can actually work with it. We can, like the robot. I don't know how. Like, we can program the robot. It takes
Yeah.
work though. It's not just like I'm going to be grateful this morning and I do it once and my whole life is better and everything's amazing. It takes you being in like the shitty times to be able to be like, okay, but I've got running water. I've got like people that love me. Or it takes, like, I had a really frustrating client last week and I was like, okay, but look at all these like awesome interactions. Like, I had a client in tears because we just made so many cool things happen with her cash flow. So I'm like, okay, take a step back, get grateful.
Right. And I agree with what you said there about a lot of programs or whatever you want to call it that preach like all this positivity and stuff make it seem like it really is the easiest thing in the world. Just think happy thoughts and you'll be happy. And it really is not. It is that easy, but it's also not that easy in a sense where you do have to train your brain and you do have to work at it. And just thinking those positive thoughts is harder than it may seem.
Right. It's not just like putting hair dye on your hair and changing the color. It's changing the way that it grows. Like, it is changing the way that your mind works, or instead of being like worst case scenario. And that's also part of being mindful. And that I've struggled with too, and being like, what is that? Like, and now, like, I'm not perfect at it, but it's like, okay, being a bit more quiet and watching for like something to come up. Like, one time I was angry. I was doing laundry and I think I was resentful that I was the one doing the laundry. But I didn't, like, it was my mind that had this habit. And I was like, whoa, like, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm the one that does the laundry, but it's like, so I had to be mindful and correct that pattern, be like, no, like, it's good. We're good.
Yeah, it's just laundry. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal. And it's not like you're the one doing the laundry, but I'm sure every person in your house contributes
To dirty clothes.
to dirty clothes. I mean, contributes in other ways.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But it was the day, it was the energy, and I was letting myself spin into this angry thing, and then I would have gone upstairs and seen a sock on the floor that was already there, but because I was spiraling into this negativity, I would have been like, who, why? But you have to catch yourself halfway down and then do the upward spiral, which is harder, but it's worth it to get back up.
Right. And what do you do to climb that spiral? Like how do you
So
calm yourself down?
sometimes I will set like a timer on my phone and I'll just do a free write in my journal. And sometimes it'll literally just be like, hey, journal, or like, I don't start with Dear Diary anymore, but I like used to when I was younger. But like sometimes I'm just writing like to myself, and or I pretend it's just someone else. And I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. If that's not what I'm feeling and I physically need to move the energy in my body, I'll go for a walk. I'll take the dogs out, or sometimes I'll go on the road and I'll go on my own because I don't want to worry about where something else is. Things I do to catch that spiral going down and bring it back up. I'll take a bath sometimes, and it's not like I guess it is the self-care bath, but I'm just like, you need to take a time out. Like, it's seriously giving myself a time out because no one makes adults do that. But if Grant is having a hard time, like last week, he was really tired on Monday. So when it came for his recess, I was like, hey, I think you should go lay down for a little bit. And he was like, how dare you? And 2 hours later woke up as a totally different kid. He's an amazing kid to begin with, but it's, you now are your own parent to look at yourself and be like, I think you need a nap, or I like, versus eating those 5 cookies you ate last night. Maybe today you should start with something better for yourself. Like, no one parents you, which is why it's so easy to get so far. So we have to have those practices for ourselves where we're like, okay, girl, you know what? You need to go outside. You need some fresh air before you are mean and you say something that you maybe to yourself or to someone else that you don't mean. Like, you truly, it just comes from a place of hot emotion.
Right. I think it's super, super important to remove yourself from the situation, whether it be with the people you live with or even like online. If you see a comment that you think to yourself, wow, how could one person be that ridiculous? Instead of like, getting on there and starting some thing or whatever, just put your phone down, go do something you want to do.
Yeah.
I definitely have struggled with that in the past, especially with, when I live with roommates or whatever. I just get frustrated, and then instead of removing myself from the situation, I'm like, I want to talk about it, and I want to be like, it's good to talk about things, but maybe not in the heat of the moment.
Right. I think it's important that you take yourself out to also reflect, because it's like, say your roommate left their dishes in the sink, and that set you off. But it's like usually if I take the time before I blow up, I realized that it was my energy from earlier that day, from that client that was upset with me, or that person that cut me off, that actually started the spiral going down. And they were just like the next level. Those dishes were the next lower level, but that's where everything's going to come out. So I'm like, okay, back it up. Like, why are you actually irritated? And how big is this problem? It still might need to be a conversation. Like, hey, do you mind like cleaning those up? But it might not need to be like the holy whose is this, clean this up, like put the dirty
versus molehill type thing. Yeah.
Like to me, it's totally like a positive to a negative spectrum. And if like, one of those spiral things, that's what I'm doing. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Right. So
it's the bunny ears.
Yes. It's how do we keep ourselves up? Oh, the bunny ear. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because I kept doing.
Yeah. So this is mine. Up as not like, doesn't have to be as high as possible, but consistently in the top realm. And when we do get to the bottom, because the bottom happens, we are human. What are we doing to bring ourselves back up? And is it positive? Like, I'm not saying I haven't reached for a glass of wine before or a bottle when I've been low
mood,
but that is a short-term like spurt up, and then I'm like, oh, I feel like garbage. Like, why did I do that? Right? Like, it like pushes you up a little bit, but then you just fall back down.
Right. And that goes right back to like living your everyday life. No, enjoying your everyday life. Because as much as in that moment, it seems like exactly what you want to do to say, have an outburst or address a situation in an angry way or whatever it may be, you're not enjoying doing that, because you're going to, like you said, you're going to fall afterwards. You're going to go into a low. You're going to feel that guilt that we talked about, or feel that regret.
Yeah.
And then dishes turned into a whole day of,
of picking on things. And then your day is now spent as angry, and it's like and instead of passive living, you're aggressive living.
Wow.
That felt
My
good.
gosh, that felt good. Which neither of them is what we want to
No,
live. We don't want to live passively. We don't want to live aggressively. And we don't
we
want to
want
live passive
assertive living.
aggressively. What is it?
Assertive. That's the one that's in between. We want assertive living.
Assertive living. Exactly.
No, I like it.
Good fun.
My
Good
next
fun.
tattoo, hashtag assertive living.
Down your arm. I
No,
like it.
I think it'd be more of a collarbone one.
But spelt incorrectly.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes
But-
you just gotta.
And I think that helps with things like our social media posts, or when we're interacting with friends. Like, it helps us to understand our spectrums and to understand, like, if they're at the lower part of that spectrum, giving them, if they want suggestions. I actually came across this week, and it was, whenever my spouse and I start a conversation, we ask, do you want a solution or do you want someone to just listen to? And I'm like, I really like that.
Ryan sent that to me this week.
I
Literally a script. What?
I sent it to Travis too.
Oh, that's so weird. Literally
Right?
like 2 days ago.
That's what I sent it. I bet that's totally when I sent it to him. That's so funny.
That's
But
crazy.
And it makes so much sense, because like sometimes someone will send me a text and I'll send back this great big like blah 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 blah, and I'm like, wait, did they even want my advice, or did they just want someone to listen to?
Right.
So I need to work on asking that question, because I think it can be uncomfortable, because it makes it sound like more of like, do you want the burger or do you want the chicken nuggets? But it's like, no, like, because if you want the burger and I gave you the chicken nuggets, you're gonna be like, well, this is not what I wanted. So it's clear communication, but it's new for me, because I've never asked that, nor have I been asked that when I had a conversation.
Right. And I'm
So
trying to think, like, when he sent me that, I'm trying to think like how I would react to that if I was in a situation where I was like, a little worked up and I was just like ranting or whatever, and someone said, do you want comfort or do you want solutions? Would I be in the state of mind to be like, okay, I want comfort or I want solutions? Or how would I be able to differ what I want?
I think it depends where you're coming from on your rant. Like, say it's a client that like treated you horribly or keeps blowing you off. Ryan might have the solution, but you have to decide. It's like, do I just need to air this out to give myself some, like, to create space so I can create a solution? Or maybe you're talking to another realtor, and they, like, to them, you might not be trying to air space. You're just like, what have you done in the past?
Yeah, advice.
Right. And I think it depends on how it's asked. Like, if Travis were going off, I was like, so do you want like a solution or do you want me to listen? And like, you need to be very like open with how you say it, and be like, so what are you looking for from me? Just so I don't, and it's more of a thing, because have you ever said something to someone and then they give you a big response and you're like, thanks, but
yeah.
that was a waste of your time and my time, because that's not what I wanted, but we weren't clear on what we wanted.
Right. And that's just like healthy communicating. And I think that that's something that we've kind of strayed away from a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's, and sometimes too, like, I know I offered Travis, when he was at his previous employer, like, so many solutions. When looking back, I didn't waste time, but I should have just been more actively listening than trying to piece the puzzle together, because he pieced it together fine. He didn't need me to be like, oh my gosh, but what if you did this and then you did that? Anyways.
Right. And I think that if we kind of, as we've talked about this, but as like we continue, what am I saying? If we like integrate comfort versus solution, like if I am told or asked that, if I'm asked that a couple times, it is a Monday morning, everyone. I am tired. If I'm asked that a couple times and like it becomes a norm, it's not, I'm going to be able to figure out very quickly what I want. And I could even ask for that before I'm asked that. So if I'm ranting to you or to anyone and I'm looking for a solution, I can specifically say, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I remember I had one of our high school friends, I'm going to keep her anonymous, but whenever we needed a rant, we would always just text each other saying, do you have a second? Like, can I just rant for a second? Yeah. And then we would know, like, you don't even need to like give a solution or give comfort. Just be like, yeah, that fucking sucks.
Yeah. Or be like, yo, I hear you. Right. Just a little bit of validation could be what we're looking for too. And I think that's part of being in touch with, like, if you think of like a lake or an ocean, and down below, like snorkeling, like you see like the fish they're swimming just fine, but say up top is like really turbulent. So being, and that's us to me, it's my little spiritual woo-woo time. So being in touch with yourself and what you need, even though you're like angry and like, holy, this day has been garbage and that client is awful, like, but like inside, I think if you take a breath and you're like, but I don't want solutions right now. I don't want to find out how to fix it. I just want to breathe my fire on someone that's wearing a fireproof outfit. So I feel better.
Right. But I also think it's very important to make sure that the person you're breathing that fire on is wearing that fireproof outfit.
Yes. And that they're like consensual to it, which
exactly.
I don't know how I feel about that word, but
yeah.
But that they're like, yes, hit me. And they're not having a day when they want to breathe fire. Like, or if they are, then it's an exchange of energy, but it's a consensual exchange of energy. Right. Because if I'm having a hard day and you come and you're like, blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, that was a lot, but I love you and I want to be there for you. But that takes me down that spiral notch even deeper. How am I any good for you?
Exactly. And especially like if I had a complaint about you, or like my rant had something to do with you. Like if I was already having a day, I had a bad client, I was fighting with whoever, and you came and were like, you know what, Dakota, you did not do this week. And I'm upset. I'd be like, ah.
Right. So I think, part of best practices personally, it's totally clear communication and getting in tune with what you want and what you need.
Right. And it's so cliche, but really try. I was never this person, and I thought that positivity was a load of garbage. But I am so like focused on the positives, or I try to be right now, and focusing on enjoying my life wherever I am or whatever I'm doing, as opposed to just being like, it's gonna get better when I sell a house or when I do whatever. But like I'm living my life, and even though we are in a pandemic, I still want to do things. Like I can't leave my house, I can't come see all my friends or whatever, but I still try to keep in touch. Like I have Zoom calls with friends, and we have a couple glasses of wine, play games, whatever. Just like living your life no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your limits are. And sometimes that results in me having a pond in my living room, but
it is what it
I
is.
enjoy it. So
it's being in tune with yourself enough to really recognize and feel what brings you joy. Because I feel like a year ago I asked myself that. I know we have a minute left. And I was like, I don't know, like a clean house. It's like my girlfriend Paula, she was asked what she wanted for Christmas, and she was like dishes, and her husband was like, what does Paula want? Like those are household items, but what? And it's just so, I'm like trying to fit it in. Okay, we need to end this off. Anyways, get in touch with yourself, figure out what you love, and be mindful of when things light you up. And that's a wrap for episode 11.
Just quickly before we are cut off, we're going to start doing Q&As on our Instagram page. So make sure you follow us, The New Network. And we're going to answer all your guys' questions and do some really cool things on there. So if you're not, follow us there. And then email us any stories or tips you have for being your best self or best practices at thenewnet2020@outlook.com. Love you guys. Have a great week.
All right. Peace out.
Bye.